talking about individual development, it was Walter Rodney that said, individual development is increased skill, capacity, greater freedom, self-discipline, responsibility, and material well-being. So when you see this definition of development, you will see that the individual possesses all the things that makes him well. The sense of freedom, increased skill gives him freedom. Increased skill gives him capacity. As he continues to increase his skill, he grows capacity. Now, when you look at development from that perspective, from the individual perspective, you want to bring the same idea to the group or social development, or the development that you define as the development of a nation. So when you have developed nations and you have underdeveloped nations. So speaking about developed nations, you will be talking about a group of people who have been able to acquire skill, a group of people who understand the natural sciences, who from the understanding of the natural science have been able to develop tools which will bring you to the concept of technology. So they've been able to develop tools that helps them to subdue, to control the environment. And from this understanding and from this ability to manipulate tools or create tools, from creativity to design tools that will help them subdue the environment, and now have been able to also grow from that point to designing work environment. So there are legislations and administration of work that helps them to be able to organize themselves. These are the things that bring about the manifestation of a developed nation. So a nation that has not been able to come to that understanding, a nation where individuals that make this nation have not been able to develop their capacity, have not been able to acquire skills or to increase in skills, you understand that such a nation is underdeveloped. So when you're talking about the underdevelopment of Nigeria or underdevelopment in Africa, some of these underdeveloped countries, and particularly talking about that of Nigeria, you see that there's so much that we would speak about, that we would say we cannot express freedom because many of us have not been able to acquire or have not been able to increase the skills that we need, because there's so much that limits you from increasing your skill. It is either education, it's poverty, it is hunger, it is insecurity. So many things are working against us to deprive us from entering into that thing that most of the nations of the world have been able to enter, that gives them the sense of freedom, that gives them the sense of development. They've entered, they've actualized development. Now, if you're feeling bitter about this, and which most Nigerians will feel bitter about, and which most of the young people in the nation will feel bitter about, where I feel bitter about it. But in what ways can we express ourselves? You'd observe that in many ways, many nations and many countries in Africa have devised this youth rebellion, youth restlessness, and all of these things to want to voice out their bitterness, to voice out their frustrations. But you would also observe, and I agree with me, that all of these mediums have not in any way helped Africa. All these revolutions, rebellion, and all of those things that we want to anchor on to bring about our freedom as Africans have not been able to give us this. And so even the independence that we got from the colonial masters to receive our freedom, you'd observe that in many ways we've not been able to take that responsibility to express our freedom. The only freedom we would say that most of us have been able to acquire is the freedom that gives us our national anthems and the freedom that gives us the flag. But to really grow individual beings and people, and now to come together as a group and synergize to bring about true emancipation, where we are truly creative, where we truly increase in our skills, where we truly increase in our capacity. All of these delimiting factors and indices in our self-expressions are so huge, and we don't know how to solve it. And all of the ways in which we have devised to bring about our emancipation still frustrate us. And how do we even combat the powerful corporations? How can we even fight them? You observe that we cannot fight them. We don't have the army, we don't have the tools, we don't have the wealth, we don't have the money, we don't have the banks. We cannot fight them. how can we now bring about our self-actualization and our freedom? You see, for me, I'm a Christian and I'm coming from the Christian perspective and the teachings of Jesus. You see, Jesus teaches about peace. You must have peace in yourself, because peace, when as believers, we believe that God gives us peace. The true knowledge of God gives you emancipation. True knowledge of God gives you peace. True knowledge of God gives you freedom. And it is that freedom from the inside that you use to bring about stabilization, that you bring about stabilization to the chaos, that you bring about peace to the frustration that your environment suffers. So when we come from that point, that's where we start. So this is me trying to shout out to fellow believers and young people who are Christians. I'm not trying to say that, I'm not trying to even pour cold water on the fire that you are working hard to bring about your emancipation. What I'm trying to say is that, see, we cannot take the route of the world. We cannot take violence to bring about our emancipation. True emancipation starts from the inside, because Christ dwells in the inside. The Spirit of God dwells inside of you. But again, there's another powerful tool that has been given to us. This tool, we make a joke of it, the power of prayer. But you see, we cannot pray if we are not strategic. We cannot pray if we do not know what we want from God. We want true development. We want true emancipation from these shackles that deprives us from really experiencing and acquiring the value of our environment, enjoying the fruit of our nation and our country, really controlling our territory, controlling our land. We cannot come to that by violence. We can only come to that through prayer. We can only come to that through self-development. We can only come to that if the church begins to learn how to gather together, to talk with one another. In the church, you observe that the smallest unit that makes a church, the Bible tells us that wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there in your midst. So imagine 2 minds coming together, encouraging themselves, begin to put themselves to study, begin to put themselves to acquire skills, begin to increase capacity, selflessly giving themselves to transform their environment. How about we start with that? This is just to bring about certain form of awareness. There are many forces that are fighting against us. History has so much of these. When you look at colonialism and post-colonialism, new colonialism, I think Kwame Nkrumah wrote something about this new colonialism in 1965. But all of these strategies that the nations are using to suppress us, I don't know. But true democracy has to do with individuals emancipating themselves from their mind. If you are emancipated from your mind, study, work with groups, give yourself to your brothers who are also interested in their transformation. I don't just know, I'm just thinking out loud, because encountering the works of Walter Rodney, encountering the works of Professor Kent Hodge, and what they are advocating for. Walter Rodney, as an historian, gives us the different ways in which Africa has been underdeveloped by Europe. But Kent Hodge is presenting to us biblical ways in which we can bring about true freedom that will not come by shedding of blood, that will not come by killing people to bring it to reality. This can only come when we come together with our individual skills, with our individual giftings. The same way we come together and build blocks to build the structures where we come together for our churches, we can come together and synergize our hearts and minds to bring about our own transformation. This sacrifice can only be if we give ourselves. I don't just know, I'm just speaking out loud. I don't know how many people are willing to really give themselves to acquire skills, to build capacity, to develop tools that can help answer the questions of our communities and societies, and then organize ourselves. And only if we do these things can we begin to appreciate and understand and even begin to enjoy true development in our little corners. When Christian writers would say something like, shine your light in your little corner. This is how we go about it. So it's not only when we come to clap hands in worship. It's only when we come to read the Bible together. We can come and inquire from the Word of God ways to bring about true freedom in our societies and really bring about technological advancement in our society. We can do that. We can trust God to help us do that. So this is just me speaking out to you. I pray God does something in your heart and that we shun violence and begin to think together as we commune in fellowship for our true salvation. God bless you. Meet you another time.